Welcome to the Happy Bones, Happy Life podcast. I'm Margie Bissinger, a physical therapist and integrative health coach, and I am your host and guide on our journey to discover the keys to stronger bones, more happiness, and the secrets to live your best life ever. From nutrition to stress, from exercise to happiness, you will gain revolutionary insights from our leading experts. It is time for you to discover the health and happiness you deserve. Hey, Margie here. Are you ready to finally clear the clutter? Well, if the answer is yes, then you are in the right place. And this is the right time because so many of us are home now due to the coronavirus. And I have the perfect guest, Jessica Hritz Morrick, who's been a professional organizer for over 20 years, as well as a women's empowerment and happiness coach. She works with women of all ages to create transformation in their lives, to unblock their energy from whatever is stopping them, to walk through fear and create their dream life. As an organizer, her goals are to help people create calm, functional, enjoyable space. And over the years, she's had the opportunity to help many people resolve their clutter and special issues, improve their environment, freeing them up to live more relaxing yet orderly lives. And in this talk, Jessica gives us concrete steps that we can all do to start clearing the clutter. So stay tuned. Welcome, Jessica. I'm really excited for this interview, and thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Margie. I am so excited too to be here with you and your listeners. It's such a timely interview because so many millions of people are stuck at home and with more time on their hands and more time around their clutter.
Exactly. So the interesting thing about this interview versus so many of the others that I've done is usually my guests, I partake in what they're talking about. So whether it's nutrition or exercise, I eat well, I exercise, I meditate, I'm relaxed. But this is one that I really need desperately because it is not an area, it's really an area I personally struggle with. So I am so excited selfishly to have you here. And when I was thinking about, because I really, during this whole time with the coronavirus, I wanted to have guests who can help people. And then I thought of you. I thought, what people are asking for is they want to clear clutter because we're all home. And as we're going to talk about, clutter is not something positive. And when we can clear it, we feel so much better. So I'm just absolutely thrilled to have you, who's a professional organizer, on to just really help all of us and guide us, because this is not something we can easily do ourselves, or at least I have been struggling trying to do it myself. So why don't we just get started? And why don't we start with why, Jessica, why is it important that we organize and clear the clutter? Like, what are the benefits of this?
Great question, Margie. There are so many benefits. The first one that comes to mind is clutter is stressful. It's stressful to our bodies. It causes medical conditions, as doctors have talked about for decades. It's dusty. It doesn't add to the health in that way either, in our air quality, but it's also distracting. It's hard to be focused for a lot of people while there's tons of stuff around them, and they feel like there's no resolution because they feel stuck. Another reason is the space it occupies. People, the biggest complaint I've heard, usually on the first session with my clients over the years, is I have absolutely no space. And as soon as you begin organizing and decluttering, you begin to see that there are pockets of space appearing, which is fabulous. And of course, too, there are a couple of products that can help things along as well when you design some systems. Another reason to declutter is the time it ultimately saves in the looking for things that you can't find. I know people that spend every day looking for their keys before they can leave the house, digging in their handbag, or that one item that would be perfect to use right now that is here somewhere, but you're not sure where. So it can turn into hours every month. It can turn into many hours every year. So it will free you up to have more time. And of course, too, the searching is very frustrating, and that adds to the stress. Another reason there is a need to declutter is that it's unsafe to have clutter on your floors or on your magazines scattered that you could slide on, or a bit of an obstacle course. Now everybody's clutter is different. Some people it's just on the surfaces, but I've seen many homes where it's everywhere and it can topple over, and if you need to leave the house or just coming in and out, you can fall and injure yourself. Another reason to declutter, and this is probably this is probably my favorite, is that it relaxes you. It releases the energy block and all the negative thoughts that come associated with clutter. People have things that they say to themselves over and over. I've got to get around to this. Oh my gosh, I'm such a mess. And more. People have a lot of emotion attached to it, sometimes from their childhoods. See, my mom was right. I'm terrible. I'm bad. Look at my situation here. So without that there, and I'm not saying it'll resolve everything, but it certainly releases those negative cycles people can get in because they're seeing their clutter every day, unless you're someone who's put it in the closet. So, but those feelings of dread. And so it's very uplifting. It can be very, feel like a sense of accomplishment can come over people. It's such a satisfying feeling when people begin to see signs of hope, parts of a table, parts of a counter, or they open that closet and suddenly it is in order, and it's very satisfying after having it in disarray for many years. So it opens people up to maybe accomplishing some of their dreams. A lot of people wait. They think they're not going to start something till it's perfect, till it's clutter free. And, and that's quite difficult because there's always something in life to do. So it helps not continue that delay, as well as maybe open up somebody to even figuring out what their dreams are. So there's so many important reasons, Margie, and that's a great question.
Wow. It's so there, unfortunately, these are resonating with me. The one about the time, oh my goodness. If only, I knew where this was. So instead you're spending an hour trying to locate it, and you have it, and it's so frustrating. And it's just, you're just going around with this in terms of trying to find it. And so, yes, I can totally relate to that. And the other thing that I can relate to, which is really sad, is that probably around 10 years ago, I remember, because my brother and some other people have hired, people like you to really come and help them. And so I really decided, at least 10 years ago, I said to my husband, you know what, I think it's worth investing in a professional organizer to help me. And he's like, oh, you can do it yourself, or at least get started. And then once you make some, the basics, then you can hire the person. Well, this is 10 years ago and still nothing has really changed. So obviously I couldn't do it myself. Or you just wait for the perfect time, and I guess for me, I'm just so busy, not busy, but doing good things, cooking and doing my meditation and that's the last priority. So, but every single thing you're saying, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it just so resonates with me. So why don't you tell us, what have you found? You've been doing this for a very long time. And what have you found what have you found is the most common reason that people have this clutter?
Well, there are several themes I have noticed throughout the 20 years I've been doing this. And the biggest theme is something I've given a name to called decision avoidance. It's the delay in making a decision, or the complete lack of making a decision, because these are seemingly unimportant decisions to make. So somebody will set that item back down on their desk or the counter, or that piece of paper gets thrown in the stack of, I don't know what to do with this, because people believe they don't know what to do. And at that moment, they don't. It's very common to avoid making a decision. But the good news here, and what happens by doing it, is the piles increase in size, because anything that causes you confusion in that moment gets set aside, and the clutter continues. So the good news here is that this is a habit. And as we know, we can unlearn our habits. And that's not to trivialize how painful it is to accumulate tons of stuff, but it does mean that there's hope for this. because what I'd like you to do, there's a solution here, is to now become aware, start to notice when you're about to throw something in that pile because, I don't have time to decide where this goes right now, or I don't have space for this or for anything. So people just throw things down and they think one day they'll get around to it, but that doesn't tend to happen because it's a confusing pile, things you haven't ever thought you could make a decision on. So if you become aware of this tendency now, sort of like when you wanted that red car you saw on television and now you see it driving around on the street all the time. So that's the way I think about it. So now if you heard us talk about this and you begin to think and become aware of when you're starting to do that, that'll be your first little bit of help, that you have this new awareness. But the second thing, that's not going to solve it, is to stay put, be patient with yourself, and actually sit there or stand there for a moment and think, what room does this belong in? Or what cabinet in that room does it belong in? And just the act of making a decision, or what file folder, what would I name this if I don't have a file folder for this? Is it an article about health? Is it some other item that has a category? And actually sit and decide. And then, take care of it right then. And if you absolutely can't, put a Post-it on it, tape it on with that place it's going to leave when you go distribute things. Let's say you're working in your office. You don't want to jump up every time you see a little item that needs to be decided upon. So have a little distribution pile on the desk that at the end of your session in the office, leave yourself 15 minutes, leave yourself 10 minutes. Or if it's a few hours that you're going to do organizing a project you've chosen to do after you listen to our podcast today, where we're going to give you so many tools to use and steps, then leave yourself a good half an hour, because when you've worked for several hours, you might accumulate a lot more to distribute. And so that's the biggest thing I've ever seen. And so I challenge you now to get started doing this right now and over time, because habits, as we know, can take weeks to kick in. And that's if we're doing them all the time. If we're, so be patient with yourself and don't give up before the miracle.
Okay, so on that note, something I do is I'm big into going to bed early because I want to keep myself well and healthy. And so, now it's 10 o'clock and I like to go to bed around 10, and I have my pile. I should just come up earlier. So the key is don't start the piles. That's the key, is what you're saying. Make decisions before you start just saying, oh, I'll deal with it later. Is that correct?
Exactly. Okay. But we're not perfect. So, and also right now, there may be people listening who already have these piles. So if you could just start with one item at a time and start labeling it. If you can't get up right now, do a little bit here, a little bit there at the end of your office session, or what you're doing in the kitchen. Allow extra time. I think that was a very good point, Margie. Don't wait until it's 10 o'clock to start prepping. If you have stuff to distribute, maybe add it as a new little ritual.
So I love this. So what exactly are we labeling though? What are we putting on this label? Where?
Oh, okay. The confusing items.
I'm hearing noise. What exactly are we going to be labeling?
If there are items that confuse you and they've been sitting on your desk or in a pile and they were put there because you don't have a quick answer to where this goes. So that's the delay factor. We delayed thinking about it and making a choice, or maybe we don't know how to, right? So sit still, really think, where does this item live? And if it's something that is in the office, well, think about what part of the office it should live in. If it's something you really don't need, it's a piece of paper that's been laying there for months. Do you have to read that? Could you find it on the internet? Let go of some of it. If it's just cluttery papers, of course, throw them out. But what it is when, for example, if you are in a period of time where you've decided, I'm organizing now, I've seen the podcast, I'm going to set out to do this a little at a time. So I'll start with a half an hour because I don't want to scare myself off. But at the beginning of an organizing session and you're in it and you find yourself with an item. Let's say you're standing at a messy closet and it's a whole bunch of miscellaneous junk. The easiest thing, and how it ended up that way, was because you didn't know what to do with it, and it's all this different stuff. So let's say you find an old scooter from when your son was 12 and it's in the hall closet and it doesn't belong there. It's in your office closet and you're stumped. Do you want to just throw it back in? Stand there and decide. That's the time to decide, little bits at a time, where this really wants to live. If you have a garage, is that a suitable choice? That might be good, where the bicycles live too. Or if you don't have a garage, is there a front hall closet where there is enough available space to stick it up against the side wall? Or if it's been so long and he's 24 now, decide it goes in your donations pile and create a box. Not from outside, by the way, I want to mention right now with the coronavirus going on. Whenever I talk about containers, please don't bring anything in from outside and don't bring in your trash can or cold boxes. Just try to utilize whatever containers and things you have indoors for quite some time. That was my little, bit there. I wanted to make sure you stay safe. Did that make sense, Margie? Did that answer that question?
Yeah, it's so helpful. So the question is there, I think one of the problems is overwhelm. And I always tell people not to be in overwhelm, because we don't want to, sometimes if people are thinking, oh my goodness, I have to eat well, I have to exercise, it becomes overwhelming. That's a very bad place to be. So in terms of, I know even for myself, all of a sudden this whole task of clearing the clutter is daunting, and you can feel overwhelmed, and then you sort of psych yourself out and you feel stuck. So do you have a tool when we get that feeling of overwhelm, what we can do so that we can forge ahead and start this process?
Oh, absolutely, Margie. Great question. Overwhelm goes hand in hand with most people who have clutter, and getting stuck is the result of the overwhelm. It's often inevitable, usually inevitable. So whenever I meet a client, they are usually overwhelmed. There's a small percentage who may not be, but that's a rarity. And so that's a great question and acknowledgement. So I have a very powerful tool that I use, and it can be used in the general world for other things or anything. But as far as organizing, setting a powerful intention at the beginning, before you start the organizing session, can make all the difference. And for people who aren't aware of what intention setting is, it's a statement that can imprint on our subconscious to set us up for expectancy. So we set an intention, and our mind, is programming itself for a certain type of thing to happen. So for example, here's a few intentions that someone could set before they begin to help them deal with how they feel about clearing clutter, and also how to get started, because so many people have negative feelings about it and stay stuck. So here's one. I begin to clear clutter a little at a time, and it flows with ease and grace. I begin to clear clutter a little bit at a time, and it flows with ease and grace. Another simple one, and it goes back to what we were just speaking about, is I enjoy making decisions, and the answers come easily to me. And one more I have, same to do with the decisions, is I am now willing to make all decisions with ease and grace. I am now willing to make all decisions with ease and grace. And who knows, it could spill over into other areas of life where somebody's putting something off. But it's really a powerful tool to do this. And remember things that were said, like Albert Einstein. He has a great quote: imagination is everything. It is the preview of life's coming attractions. And then there was Abraham Lincoln, who said, folks are as happy as they make up their mind to be. So both of these men knew the importance of our thoughts being in alignment with what we would like the outcome to be. So I find that I apply this to organizing. I have a story, you know, you were saying how most people get stuck or overwhelmed or have a dread. And I've had, of course, several clients who have a dread, and that's why they hired me. But years ago, I had one client, and she's a medical doctor, and she had so much dread that it actually gave her a terrible backache by the end of each session. And I had worked with her a few times before she told me this story. So when she did, just off the top of my head and with no explanation, I said out loud, we were at the beginning of the session, I said, our session flows with ease and grace. We have fun, the time flies by, and we accomplish more than we even set out to. And then we got started. She was a little surprised, and she said, oh, okay. Well, I give people like a 30-minute warning before we come to the end of our hours together. And I let her know we were coming up on 30 minutes. And she said, oh my gosh, it just flew by. And we had so much fun today. But before we get suspicious about that, the next thing that happened was just truly amazing. She then realized and said out loud, oh my gosh, my back feels great. So we remembered to do intentions at the beginning of each of our sessions together, and she never had that. And this would occur when she paid bills or did her office work herself alone at home without me there.
Wow.
So it really fixed that problem for her. Yeah, there's a lot of power in doing that. So to recap, what's this to do with organizing? Again, if we set a positive intention, a powerful intention at the beginning of our session, it will imprint our beliefs about how we feel about clutter, decluttering. And it will also, as we talked about earlier, also add to helping us make decisions about what item goes where, etc., as we move through the process.
What a great tip. It's funny because I do intentions for every part of my life. I have intentions I look at every single day. And sometimes I have done that. I live in a organized, you know, my house is organized, my office is organized, but I guess I don't really put enough effort into them, or I love the ones that you told us today. Those are great. And I think, do you also recommend people write them down as well?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I should have mentioned. Okay, it's very important to make sure your intentions never have negativity in them about what you don't want. So you're always focusing on what you do want. Often they start with the words, I am. That is a very powerful statement. Or the action you're going to take, I enjoy, or I begin. And the other thing is to break it down into smaller pieces, because to go from clutter and by affirmations magically have the office, you know, suddenly take care of itself. We know that isn't the way it'll happen. And it's an innocent, you know, mistake or way of thinking, right? When setting an intention. But if we break it down in baby steps, like we've heard to do in other parts of our lives too, we can make the intentions very specific, you know, like about the avoidance of the decision or about unblocking our energy, where we wouldn't mention, I want to unblock my energy, because that's reaffirming what we already have and don't want because it's something negative to us, right? So as long as we change it and switch it around and say something like, I begin to clear clutter one item at a time, and it flows with ease and grace, that's a baby step. You know, that applies to help me, I can't even get started, you know, and I have dread and overwhelm, like you said earlier. So that's those tiny little affirmations take care of that. But I also didn't address fully what you said. There are old-fashioned ways of putting our affirmations on a post-it and post it on the, you know, by the bedside table, on your bathroom mirror. But now we have these gadgets, and we can have an alarm remind us of our affirmations throughout the day. That's another way to deal with it. But it also is very helpful to say them several times in a row, because we are trying to imprint the subconscious mind, right, to have this expectancy now, this positive expectancy or change. And another thing about the affirmations is at bedtime, it's a very powerful time. As you get into bed, as the last thing you think before you shut your eyes to fall asleep, you say your affirmation and you just let go of it. You know, there's no stress, there's no meditating that you have to do on it. You say them relaxed, and over time they start to take shape And you see, you've begun to make small changes and that turn into cumulatively bigger changes. So in all areas of our life.
And what I love in what I totally believe in, what we focus on grows, what we put our attention on grows.
Absolutely.
So I love what you said, because if we focus on what's not working, I have to get rid of this horrible clutter, that's what's going to grow. But I live with ease and grace and in an organized office or whatever it is that's positive, I am. And with the I am statement makes it even more powerful. So I think that's just such a good point that you brought up. And it really applies to every area of our life. But it's interesting now to take that and apply it to clearing the clutter. So I have a question for you. So everybody's listening and you're getting everybody excited, including me. And because the funny thing about me is if you come in my house, it looks it's clean, everything looks good. It's just what's hidden, and that's the issue. So it's that there's all these other areas. I'm sure a lot of people, I know a lot of people can relate to this because I talk about it with friends and other people. And there are just certain people who are very organized and everything. And then there are other people who that isn't their top priority, but we know that there's things that can be done. So the question is, where do we start? So what's the very first thing? You gave us a couple things, but what would be the very first thing after we listen to this and we say, you know what, Jessica's right, or like me, I know that clutter is not good, and I know, we always try to improve ourselves, and I do a lot of wonderful things, but this is an area where I do feel stuck, and I know that clutter, I know that when you do clear clutter, maybe you can speak to this also, that miraculous things happen, that all of a sudden, as you said in the very beginning, space opens and just opportunity opens, and things, people's lives really improve with this. It's not a minor issue. So I'm excited for this, but where and what should we do? What's the very first thing you would tell people to do?
Okay, great question, Margie. Because our audience each has their own individual spatial and clutter issues, I'm going to speak in a general way and maybe give examples for both ends of the spectrum, because no one answer suits everybody. And I'm sure everybody's aware of that. Individually, I would hone in on what you had going on, right? So I'm going to come up with a list for us as we're stuck in the house, perhaps, or even not, if it's a big organizing project and someone's really overwhelmed. What I would do now, I'm customizing this to this podcast, is I would write a list of the top 10 hotspots in your home. Or if you don't have that many, make it 5. To some people, that will, and write this down, some people that will be an easy question to answer. Of course they know. But to people with vast amounts of clutter, who have it everywhere, or just enough to really have a hard time, everywhere they look, they see clutter, it might come harder to them. Well, the whole place is a mess, right? So there are questions I would ask yourself if you have any struggle in writing that top 10 list of places to begin. And this isn't the whole answer. I wouldn't leave you on your own just with the list. There'll be more to this question. But the questions I would ask someone in their home when I first saw them on their first day is, I would ask them, well, what is bothering you the most? I'd say about 80% of people know what's bothering them the most, and we get our answer about where to start. But that may not solve it for some people. And you could go on to say, well, what haven't I been able to do it for ages or recently because of the clutter? It either affects my mindset so badly, or I just can't find the stuff I need to do that, right? Or I'm just stuck, so I don't feel creative and I can't get on with my creative projects, right? So those 2 questions are often helpful. But then now to the nuts and bolts. When we have our list, or if and for people who have it everywhere, make a list. Just design a few rooms. Just design and make it as your future GPS. This is where you're going to go in terms of organizing as you begin to make progress. And for those people with huge amounts of clutter, even a corner of the table, even a half of a table, that's progress. Do my kitchen table, do that part of my office floor, finish the office floor, do that one closet. So some of us will know right away. So have your list so you don't get lost in the shuffle, and you'll have it to go back to, okay? And just take baby steps, because if we say the kitchen, well, the kitchen's a large place full of cabinets, even if it's a small kitchen, cabinets, shelves, drawers, surfaces. Sometimes people have things on their surfaces for years. And like you said, Margie, things that are tucked away that you know are there, but most of the house looks great, you know? So anyway, start small and decide on a chunk of time. Decide when you're going to start. And for anyone who wants to replay the podcast, you can of course hit pause and replay and do some organizing along with the podcast, because I really wouldn't want you to be left alone to try to start something that you've been experiencing for such a long time, right? So we often need a trainer at the gym, or a video for our exercise, or someone like Margie for our health, or our health coaching. So come back to the video, come back to this podcast, and follow along at your own pace. So you start where you stand on your first project. And if it was a closet, for example, I'd say take everything out, wipe it down. Of course, if it's a linen closet, let's say it's been infiltrated with all sorts of other stuff that really doesn't belong in the linen closet, for example. I found this several times in my years. And so make sure you're not putting your linens on the floor. Put them somewhere nice and safe, like on the bed, and clean. And then, or put a towel down on the bedspread in case you have a dog that gets up there. Keep it clean, and each part of the house will have different tasks involved, of course, with organizing it. The linen closet, you'll line them up, you'll fold things all the same way, the same width, you'll categorize. Categorizing is key with any project. For those with big surfaces, I'll give 2 more tips on this. With big surfaces and clutter everywhere that I referred to earlier, your job is going to be a lot of distribution, to think through items, to let go of items, to let go of anything junky, anything that brings you down, to look at, sort of a Marie Kondo type of thought. We have feelings attached to these objects, and sometimes it's guilt. Someone you love gave it to you, but you can't stand it, and it depresses you every time you see it. So it'll be clear to you what to do. Do I donate this? Does it feel good? No. Is it total junk? Get rid of it. Then make everything in its category and fold everything the same. Let's talk linen closet, because I started with that. And have the folds facing outward so they all look uniform and don't have the raggy edges facing the outside of the closet. But what you found in there that didn't belong there, all those miscellaneous items, that's when I also would have the pad of Post-it notes handy and a Sharpie, and I would write a note and have the Scotch tape there with you and label it, so that at the end of your session, when you're ready to distribute, you know where these miscellaneous and previously confusing items are now going to go. So you won't have to stand there and think about it and fall into that trap of decision avoidance. You'll have decided in your session where each item is going. Now, you might be thinking, easier said than done, but remember, this is going to occur over time as you start to implement the other tools we talked about and the affirmations at the beginning of the session, right? And plus, it won't let you just throw them down in another pile, but outside of that linen closet or outside of that office, okay? So as long as you made your decisions beforehand, I found that to be very helpful for people, majority of people. Margie, is there another room in the house or area you'd like me to discuss?
No. I think that's good. But I think Jessica and I talked before, and I guess I have to just tell everybody a little bit about our backgrounds. I really didn't. So this is actually a very funny story how Jessica and I met, because both Jessica and I are both happiness trainers. And she had contacted me because I had been running an online happiness course, and she just wanted some tips on how to do that and just different things. And then we just started talking what each of us did also. And Jessica tells me she's a professional organizer. And I thought, isn't this interesting? Here the universe is sending a professional organizer what I really need. All of a sudden here she is. And then I told her what I did, and she thought, isn't that interesting? Because she had just gotten, I think, osteopenia, or just gotten a diagnosis with bones, that she really wanted to find natural ways to help her bones. So it was just, we couldn't believe it. How, what was the likelihood that we would meet and that we both could help each other out? So we've been, talking about that we were going to help each other out. And then when this whole coronavirus happens and when people are stuck inside, I said, Jessica, I really want you on the podcast. I think people can use, as well as me, I could use your help. But what my issue is that I really know I can't do it alone, because it's been, as I said, many years and I haven't done it alone. And so we decided that what we're going to do is offer free of charge 4 weeks of we're going to meet once a week on Thursdays at 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to have 4 sessions. So we're all going to be cheerleaders for each other. We're calling it the Clutter Challenge. So if you're like me and you just have areas you need to do, then this is perfect, because Jessica's going to help us answer questions. The first steps, I guess we could do, are what we did in the podcast, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much, how little you do. I think the key here is I find power in numbers and power in a group. And if everybody's cheering each other on, and a place that we can get together for 4 weeks, because we are unfortunately going to be inside for a while, more than we're used to. And so we Jessica and I thought this was like a great thing to do, because a lot can be accomplished in 4 weeks. We're not going to ask you, you can do as much as you want, as little as you want, but if you feel that you want the help of Jessica and a professional organizer, and you just want the help of the group, then join us, because I want this. I'm being selfish a bit, because I need the group, because I have not been able to do this on my own. So the URL that we're going to do, you're just going to have to write, it will be in the show notes, but tinyurl.com/clutter. It's Clutter Challenge. Yeah, I wrote this down before. I'm pretty sure it's exactly, tinyurl.com/clutter challenge.
What's that first word, Margie? The tiny, what is
tiny,
it?
TINYUR.
Tiny, okay.
Yeah. That's a way you can make a very big URL much smaller. So tinyurl.com/clutter challenge. It'll be in the show notes.
Wonderful.
Anyway,
wonderful.
so we're starting on, what day are we starting to decide, Jessica? We're starting on
not the one after, is it the 23rd?
The 23rd.
Yeah.
Thursday the 23rd at 2:00 Eastern Standard Time. So,
tell your friends, your family, anyone who's interested.
If it's something could help you, then certainly join us, because I think it's going to be fun. I'm really excited about this. So anyway, so that's.
Yes, I am too. Yeah, same here. And also come with your questions. Oh, sorry, Margie.
No, because Jessica will answer questions. We'll have time. It's going to be on Zoom. So if you have a specific room, there's going to be all sorts of opportunities to get your specific things and have specific things that you're working on, and a group to really help propel you through this. So if you feel this is your time and you just haven't made that move, I'm excited. I know. I know how much this is going to help, and it's just one area I've sort of let go by the wayside that I know needs to be adjusted. And now this is my time. Well, I'm stuck more inside. I am stuck inside, Anyway, also we're going to have your information, so that if people can contact you, if they have specific things that they want, or they feel they need extra help, that your information be in the show notes. And is there anything else that you want to say before we
Yes. I skipped over something very important. So it's not just about starting. It's not just about jumping in. It's about systems. And as an organizer, I design custom systems to meet each of my clients' individual needs. But even generally speaking, there are some great systems that we can have in place that will accelerate our organizing and amplify the amount of space and ease our minds, because everything has a home. Everything has a specific place that you go to find it. And it has a specific place, a home, that you put it back in. So, for example, that's a system. With papers, there are other systems, categorizing. And in fact, categorizing is huge. in your bathroom, the shampoo, if you've stocked up a bunch and you can't find it. Oh, I skipped over another benefit for organizing is saving money, because some people stash up and continue buying over and over because they don't know where to put things or where to find them. And when we begin organizing and implementing systems such as categorizing as we sort, you can find sometimes 10 bottles of the same item or 10 packets, and we'll see where some of them have expired. And so these systems in place, so that's where saving money, it'll just save you tons of money. First of all, you'll have a year's worth of something, or if it's really excessive and you just don't have space for it, you can donate it to a homeless or a women's shelter, or some charity, whatever's applicable. But these systems are key. And so we're going to learn a lot of systems. And the first one to do when you begin your organizing projects is categorize. Put like items with like items in your pantry. Put the dry goods together. Put the cereals, well, probably you have your cereals together. Some people's pantries, it falls out and they dig for every snack. Put the like things, the crackers together, the cookies together, the canned goods together, the like type of canned goods, the pastas and grains. So every room has its categories, and begin sorting that way and dig yourself a space. If you don't have one, clear a space just for you to work on. Okay. Because if you are someone with clutter on all your countertops, just clear it away. Put it with the other stuff you're going to sort, so you have one nice free surface to do all your sorting that day. And I did forget also to mention, when you're sorting, you do need containers or bags. Normally you could trot out to Staples or Target or the Container Store or anywhere, Walmart, and buy some fresh, clean containers to do all your sorting in. But now that we're in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, really, please don't go buying any supplies right now, because I wouldn't want you to be unsafe. And try to utilize what's in your home, but make sure you have about 3 to 6 containers, things that you're going to, here's the name of the containers, and Post-it notes taped to the boxes so they don't just fall off and then people forget which goes where. If there are no containers or boxes at home, just clear away a few spots and put your Post-it note on the floor. This is my giveaways. These are the donations in one pile. The throwing away trash pile. And don't bring in a tiny little trash can from your bathroom, because it's going to be more than that probably. So find a container or a garbage bag or something. So there's donations, there is trash, there's recycling, there's the dry cleaner, and there are a few others.
Well, that's good to start.
That I've suddenly lost track of.
So many tips.
So you have
amazing. I really think we have so many things to do. There's just a tremendous amount that you gave us that we can start. And again, if it's overwhelming to you, then don't do any of it and just wait till we start, or do at least, pick one thing, right, Jessica? Is that what you would say?
Yes. Make your list and pick one thing. And if you're raring to go and you can't handle the thought of a list, if there's any part of this that overwhelms you, you were doing fine until this was said. We are flexible. I work with clients of all different personality types and all different emotionalities. And so you can tailor this to suit you just the way I would if we were working together one-on-one. Okay. So if you're ready to go and you know your big project and you're off and running, start with it. Forget the rest of the list. You'll figure it out when that one's done. The other carton container is for you to keep and distribute. So that's it. It's all one container there. The items you're keeping from a pile of clutter but need to be distributed. And that's when you would stop, decide where that item is going to live, that mystery, confusing item, if there is one. Tape a note to it so that when you've allowed your 30 minutes, let's say at the end of this first session you do, for you to run around the house or the apartment to distribute things, the decisions will already have been made.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's
I hope
great.
some of this has helped you.
Where I'm forced to start is that I have my daughter and my future son-in-law, so my daughter's fiance, they're working here in the house. So we have 4, we have different workstations set up. And so now my office in the basement, I used to work she's now there, and she's like,
oh wow,
there are too many papers, and I've been working room in the house that now her fiance is working in. So I realize I have to clear the clutter in the office.
Yes.
So that's where I'm starting.
Yes.
Right after this.
Yes. And congratulations, Margie. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for all the other listeners. Remember to hit replay, rewind, stop, pause, and go back if you're going to go follow along to this podcast. And remember, Margie says something that I love, which is focus on the solutions, not the problems.
Exactly.
And so with same thing is applicable to your organizing. Stay uplifted. Look out for when you start to feel a bit lighter. You'll start to feel jazzed as you see things opening up and surfaces appearing, or the project is underway. It really is a great mentally uplifting experience. And we're looking for some of that, especially right now at this time. Yes. Where exactly. So
good point. What we a lot we have no control over right now. There's so much we have no control over. I know a lot of people have heard. My husband's a physician, and he's they don't even know if they have enough equipment, and he's going to be working with the COVID patients. My brother's on the front lines, who's also a physician. So we're dealing with this. There's so many things we can't control, but we can control this. This is something that we can take this time that we don't usually have and make positive change. And I think that will just help us. I mean, I know I'm going to feel amazing after I do this. And I know I know that when we clear clutter, we open space and miracles.
Yes.
So on that note, Jessica, thank you so much. And for those
thank you, Margie.
They want to join us, that they're ready to clear the clutter.
Yes.
We would love to help. So anyway, everybody, thank you so much, Jessica. And we'll be
You're welcome, Margie. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Bye, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed today's interview with Jessica as much as I have. And if you do have clutter to clear, now you have some tools that you can put to use right away. I'm really excited about the challenge that Jessica and I are going to be doing. It's a free challenge. So if you feel you need a group and you want the energy from the group, please join us, because I'm so excited to finally clear a lot of the clutter that's been sitting there in my house for a long time. And now that we have this opportunity, not that we asked for this opportunity, but I'm going to certainly put it to good use and finally clear the clutter. So please join us. That URL is tinyurl.com/clutter challenge, and it will be in the show notes, as well as all Jessica's information on how you can contact her. So everybody, bye for now, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And stay safe and well during this difficult time. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Happy Bones, Happy Life podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe on your favorite listening app so that you don't miss any amazing insights on upcoming episodes. And until next time, continue to live your best life ever. See you soon.